Okay, now let's get into the character descriptions and lore that I didn't fit into the plot summary. So when Selena is training at the beginning of the book with Chaol, she is described as nimble as a stag. And when you realize at the end of the novel, she is the lost princess and now queen of Terrazin, like she's the lost princess and she's the heir, so she is the rightful queen of Terrazin. Their sigil is also a stag. She also sees a stag in her dreams, so basically there's a lot of great symbolism with her being recounted as a stag, or being graceful as a stag. So moving on to Chaol, Selena refers to him being too smart for his own good, which I also think has something to do about says something about Selena, because she doesn't just hand out compliments left and right. So which also goes into Selena was also kind of in love with him. But Chaol is smart and he can figure out things, and he's just but he's also incredibly stubborn. But Chaol is very smart. He's too smart for his own good sometimes. His loyalty can be a double-edged sword. That's what really gets him. Selena also doubles down on her feelings for Chaol's goodness by saying, if we could find more men like him, because he is loyal. He's loyal to a fault. He's loyal to the king and to Dorian, but Selena is tempting him, definitely tempting him towards that way. We see that it does work. And on to Kaltain, okay? When Selena visits her, she noticed that Lady Kaltain has night dark eyes. Now, I want to put a pin in that because there's a lot of descriptions with black items such as eyes, rings, stones, stuff like that. But I do want to put a pin in that. Speaking of suspicious, Roland, Dorian's cousin, has a black ring around his finger, just like Cain did, just like Parrington, and just like the king. Something fishy. And lastly, with Grave, we learn that Arobynn Hamel, who is the leader of the Assassin's Guild, rejected him from the guild for being too cruel with his prey. Okay, now let's get into themes. As far as themes go, the past is catching up with Selena, with Archer, with thoughts of Sam, with Nehemia's sacrifice and the reason behind it, and talks of the lost princess of Terrazin. Selena's gonna have to be something bigger than she intends to be. She is tied to the fate of this world, as Elena says. And then, of course, another theme that we get is colonialism. Point blank, I don't think I have to describe anything else from it other than Adolin is taking over different countries and kingdoms. So let's get into mythos and lore. I believe for the rest of the series we will keep getting into the semantics of word, because I think that's we've already gone into 2 different books of how word is approached and what is going on with that word. What is word? What is behind word? All this stuff. So like I said in my last video, word is what they believe that holds the universe together. Sort of like a version of the Force from Star Wars. And word in our world is an old English derivative of weird, which is another term for fate. And in Norse mythology, we have the deity Ur, or in the Englishified language, like a now modern English language, Erd. Now, from all this word talk, I'm going to throw in a theory, okay? One that may not be answered by the next book or anything, but hopefully will be answered soon. So I think that word is not only just a force, but I think word is a person, a god or a goddess perhaps. Now in Norse mythology, Ur is a goddess, so I think, maybe it might be a goddess, but I think with all the gods and goddesses that we have already displayed in this series, I think that because there's this huge power that they keep talking about word as having this significant amount of power to be able to traverse different realms and different worlds, basically, I think that this may be a goddess that may be behind it. Anyway, that's my theory, so let's keep moving. When Selena meets Mort, she can't understand why he's alive at all. He's like a doorknob that's being worked by magic, but magic hasn't worked in 10 years, so it's how, what gives? So Mort informs Selena that new magic doesn't work, but that old magic and ancient magic, like word marks and such, still works. So the king can't ban word marks and ancient magic, and King Brannon made Mort. So I think we're talking about, that kind of feeds into the theory of word being so much more powerful than we think, and that it might be a person behind word, like it might be a goddess or something. So how does that tie in with King Brannon? How does he have that much power? We do know that he was Fae, but what kind of power did he have? Because we know by this, Selena has a fire power. She has an elemental power. So what kind of power did Brandon have? Now we do learn that King Brandon carved the words "Ah" times Rift on his daughter's tomb, which first of all is really sad because that gives us the belief that Elena died before Brandon. But also, what does it mean? Which we will see. We also get information that there are legends when Gavin used a maris, his sword, he would only see truth, which is like a very beautiful poetic thing to do. But like also, what does that mean? Like, does he, because people are like, oh, swing true. Basically, like, if someone fights in a duel or fights in battle, hopefully your sword will swing true. So basically, hopefully your sword will kill the right people. But in very, very basic terms type thing. Have wisdom when using a sword type thing. When Selena's in the library, there's a specific description of how the darkness becomes a living thing. Now, I think that because the magic has been snuffed out, or rather, the new magic has been snuffed out, I think that darkness and light are sentient beings. And the magic of those two things are dormant. So they are lurking even when magic doesn't work. So I think there's something, I don't know, that was a theory I had where I was like, oh, that could be something, but also could be nothing. Like, it just depends. And we also get, whenever Selena is going down into, like, underneath the library, she notices that a torch lay discarded, which means, like, no one has been there in a long time. So just want to add that. Like, when was the last time that someone was down in the library? Was it Gavin? So this one's really good. I really had a fun time with this. Why had Gavin picked this site to build a castle? So while Selena is traversing the underneath the library, she wonders, why had Gavin picked this site to build his castle? Had there been something here before? Or something beneath it worth hiding? Theory time. I think there's more to the name Rifthold. We know from this book that the word keys can open up portals to other worlds. I think that Rifthold was the site of one of those places. It might have been one of the original portals that opened up, and I think that Gavin wanted to bury that rift deep down below, so he created the tombs and the catacombs and all that stuff just to basically like make it a labyrinth, not make it so easily found. I really had fun with thinking of that. My mind is still reeling. I'm still gonna have to keep my eyes open, but I think there's something there with the name. Okay, so we also learned that iron is the one element that is immune to magic, which I find this interesting because it plays in a theory that crosses into other series, and I just want to put a pin in it for now, because with any like magic system, you need to figure out like what's immune to magic, but also like what fights against it. Like, the magic is something that has to ebb and flow kind of thing. I find it really interesting. I want to put a pin in it because in another series there may be something that coincides with that, or that may relate to that in some form or fashion, but I just think that's really interesting. So we learn that many people believe that magic users originated their powers from the gods, but that the king of Adarlan thinks it's an affront to the gods. And in that same like paragraph, we learn that the like magic had come in like different variations, especially among the Fae. And some of the variations include like healing, shape-shifting, summoning flame, summoning water, storms, encouraging growth of crops and plants, seeing the future, etc. But we also learned that the gifts have been watered down over the millennia, but there are some people who have like rare strong ones. Basically, over time the powers have become like much more docile versions of the original maybe powers that they got from the gods type thing. So when we're in the catacombs with Nehemia and Selena, we learn about the constellations and we find out some of them. 9 of the stars made up a familiar pattern, the dragonfly, and then we go on to a few feet away, another constellation lay on the floor, the wyvern. It sat at the head of Gavin's sarcophagus. It's a symbol of Adarlan's house, as well as the second constellation in the sky. And then it goes on to say, Selena was staring at the last constellation, the stag, lord of the north, the symbol of Terrazin, Elena's home country, and also Selena's, Aelin's. So with word marks, of course, we get more of it, but Selena wants to learn more about word marks, and we get that it said, usefulness aside, it was a forgotten secret language, a system of accessing a strange power. Also feeds into my word maybe more than what we're thinking type thing. Okay, so we get some great history lesson now. When Dorian is in the library, he's learning more about his family history and like where his magic came from, all that stuff. We learn that Gavin went to war against Erewhon in the depths of the Rune Mountains. Only a third of Gavin's warband survived. Only a third of them. Brandon gave Adarlan to Gavin as a wedding present. And since Elena, there are no other Fae relatives. Now, Rune is an interesting name. This isn't a spoiler or anything. We do know this from just like a quick description of the back of a book. One of the other series, one of the Sarah J. Maas series, Crescent City, we learned that there is a character named Rune. I wanted to put a pin in that because I'm like, okay, there's a reason why the name is so similar. It's like literally the same name, just with an extra N. And I just wanted to, we're gonna keep an eye on that. And second, Elena is the only Fae relative that Dorian has. has, or so we think, because someone could have scrubbed the genealogies, because Dorian's quickly, he got those genealogies from the library, so someone could have tampered with them. So maybe there's more that we know, who knows? From Baba Yellowlegs, we learn that the witches come from Fae and Valg breeding. Crocian witches took after Fae, their Fae likeness, and the 3 clans of the Iron Teeth took after the Valg. Now we learn in this whole description, Dorian basically thinks Valg, he knew that name, and then he says the demons who stole Fae to breed with them, which made them witches, right? And that's when he recalls the beautiful Crocian witches had taken after their Fae ancestors, while the 3 clans of the Iron Teeth took after the race of demons that had invaded Erilea at the dawn of time. So we learn about the poem in the catacomb from what we know about, we've already learned, by the Valg 3 were made, the Valg of the race of demons, the Valg must have made the word keys of the Gatestone of Word, obsidian the gods forbade, and the stone they greatly feared. So how does obsidian fit all this? Is that what the Valg brought? Is that what the Valg made the word keys out of? We get, of course, in grief he hid one in the crown, which is in Elena's crown, that one of the word keys was found. So we found that the king has that one. The poem is a huge thing of lore, because that will keep us going. That will figure out where the other word keys are. We learn from one of the librarians that only the nobles of Terrazin spoke the language of the Fae, which is what Celaena spoke. Then I also jotted down that a seer or an oracle will give instant answers. Not only will this give us light to what witches can do, but I think this sentiment could also be used for future characters in other books. And I want to also put a pin in that. There's a lot of things I'm like, oh, that could come up later, and that could also come up later. But I firmly believe that will come up later. So when Celaena goes to visit Baba Yellowlegs, she wants to learn more about what's going on, like what the riddle means. And so she tells her about the word keys. Baba talks about the word keys, the 3 word keys to open the word gate. She then says something really interesting that I marked, and I want to save it for later, but it says, nameless is my price. We then learn from her that word governs and forms the foundations of this world and other worlds that exist beyond your knowledge, on top of each other. The word keeps these realms apart. That's why I firmly believe that I think behind word or word is someone. Now we also learn that from Baba, she says, there are gates, black areas in the word that allow for life to pass between the worlds. There are word gates that lead to Erilea. All sorts of beings have come through them over the eons, benign things, but also the dead and foul things that creep in when the gods are looking elsewhere. Then she also goes on to say, but long ago, before humans overran this miserable world, a different sort of evil broke through the gates, the Valg, demons from another realm, bent on the conquest of Erilea, with the force of an endless army behind them. In Wendlyn, they fought against the Fae. Try as the immortal children might, they could not defeat them. Then the Fae learned that the Valg had done something unforgivable. They had taken a piece of a word gate with their dark magic and split it into 3 slivers. 3 keys, 1 key for each of their kings. Using all 3 at once, the Valg kings were able to open that word gate at will, to manipulate its power to strengthen their forces, to allow an endless line of soldiers to pour into the world. The Fae knew that they must stop it. So we also learned that a small band of Fae set out to steal them from the Valg kings, and it was an impossible task, and most of those fools didn't return. That's what Baba says. But the word keys were indeed retrieved, and the Fae Queen Maeve banished the Valg to their realm. Yet for all of her wisdom, Maeve couldn't discover how to put the keys back in the gate, and no force, no steel, no weight could destroy them. So Maeve, believing that no one should have their powers, sent them across the sea with Brandon Galanthinius, the first king of Terrazin, to hide on this continent. And thus the word gate remained protected, its power unused. Okay, so we get like a lot of lore of the word gates and of how the Valgs came about, and basically the Valgs made them and all this stuff. And we also get that the keys could give someone immense power. And so then we learn from Celaena, which she learns from someone else, that the way to kill a witch was to cut off her head. And I also want to put down, Baba scuttles around like a spider. Celaena, she knows how to kill a witch because she remembered someone telling her that from the past. I also wanted to add that bubbles, but I also want to put down that Baba scuttles around like a spider because I think it'll be relevant in a future book. So we also learned that Baba was the leader of the Yellowlegs clan. After destroying the Crocians, she joined an alliance with the Beaks and the Blue Bloods. So a lot of colors going around. We learned a little bit of The Walking Dead in the book, and that's why I kind of made a comment earlier where I was like, I wish we knew a lot more what was in the book. But we do learn that in The Walking Dead, you can summon demons, you can raise the dead, and you can torture, and so on. So we then learn while Celaena is going up the clock tower, we learn that she raised her torch. Shimmering obsidian walls surrounded her, reaching high, high, high. So high that she couldn't see the ceiling. And that's when she realizes she's in the clock tower. She makes the connection. The king's ring, the ring on Parrington's finger, and Cain's, the same stone. So that stone, obsidian which the gods forbade. So I think that is a connection to the Valg, that is a connection to the word keys, that is a connection to some kind of construct with, maybe that's from the Valg's homeworld, whatever it is. So in the tomb, Celaena learns that the phrase "awe times rift" actually is an anagram for "I am the first." And apparently that was the only confirmation she needed, because that's where she found one of the word keys, or that's where one of the word keys was to be found, but the king found it when he was 20. So good for him, but also not, because he ruined the world and enslaved a lot of people, and also tampered with magic, so not good. And then we get an interesting conversation with Mort. He goes, "Word," Mort laughed, "you're pleading with the wrong force." Thank you for that, but what the hell does that mean? What's the right force? Okay, and is it a force? Is it someone that we don't know? Is another being at work? And that's when we learned that the king used the word keys to stifle magic. All magic, she added, but his own. So next I wanted to point out that the world through the portal after Nahimi left is a land of mist and rock. Now, this can mean a lot of things, but I just want to note it because I think this is a place that's going to be reoccurring. Just by the description, we learn that it's not a flourishing place. It's very much a barren, cut off from anything giving life kind of place. Almost like a desert. Celaena basically, after she gets knocked out and everything, she wonders if she died and woken in hell. I made a mark on this because I'm like, okay, I have a feeling this is going to come up later. Okay, so we do get confirmation of the king saying that he was the one who brought Baba Yellowlegs to Rifthold, and it was to purchase a few of her mirrors and learn what remained of the Iron Teeth alliance that had once been strong enough to rip apart the witch kingdom. Absolutely insane. So we do know the witch's mirrors. They are super powerful. They have a lot of like magic that flows through them. And then we get an interesting thing. So remember how I said that there was a word mark above Celaena's brow after she had fought Cain? Well, the king looked into it and he was like, okay, what does it mean? It said that the word mark was impossible to decipher. The king couldn't figure it out. And so he realized it either meant nameless or unnamed, something akin to anonymous, which is interesting because we already get the witch Baba Yellowlegs saying, "Nameless is my price." So what does that mean? Is Celaena or Aelin, is she nameless? Is she going to be the price? Who knows? And then of course we get a bit of history towards the end that Aelin's mother's name was Evelyn, and Evelyn's grandmother was Mab, who was the youngest of the three Fae sister queens, Maeve, Mora, and Mab. Mab was the youngest, and when she died, she became a goddess, and to be more specific, she became Deanna, Lady of the Hunt. It's close to Roman mythology of Diana, who's the Lady of the Hunt. There's some similarities with different mythologies in this book series. I find it very interesting, which I go crazy for. And then of course we learn that the Ash River eyes, the fairest eyes from legends old, of brightest blue ringed with gold. And that's the last of the lore that I found in this book. And that is the end of this video. There was a lot that I went through. I know I probably missed some, but I have everything cataloged because I realized I should probably do a roundup of a video wrapping up the series, like kind of like things that probably were mentioned in the first book that have been confirmed maybe in the last book, whatever it may be. So I'm gonna keep a document of that, and so obviously I'm just gonna keep that going off to the side. But if there's anything that I missed that you're like, hey, I remember this, you didn't mention this, let me know down in the comments. I would love to figure out, I'd love to be reminded, because I'm only human. But yeah, that's the end of this video. Next, I'll be going through Assassin's Blade. I was gonna go Heir of Fire next because that's how I read it, but then Sarah J. Maas updated her website back in January with like right before House of Flame and Shadow came out, saying like, hey, this is the actual order you should read the Throne of Glass books in. So I'll go with her. She's the author. I am very excited for this. I already started playing this, so have no fear. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment whether you like this book or Throne of Glass. Did you like this book? Did you not like this book? If you haven't already, please go check me out on Instagram. I have an Instagram that you should totally check out. I post a lot of fun stuff on there. Yeah, all my links to my socials, I'll be all linked down below. I will see you guys for the next video. All right, bye!